The UFC is the home of some of the best entertainment that you're able to find in any sport. So I thought it would be a good idea to rank every single division in the UFC based on how entertaining that division is. Now, to start off with the least entertaining division, in my opinion, we have the heavyweight division. Now, a lot of people might question how this is the case when, the best possibility of a knockout happening is in the heavyweight division. But it just is a very unentertaining division, in my opinion. It's very slow paced. They gas out within a couple, not even a couple of rounds, half a time, half a round. And if they're fighting at a decent pace, but usually that's not the case. They fight at a very slow pace, so they don't gas out. And it's just not fun to watch. Don't get me wrong, there's some bangers. Obviously, that's going to be the case for every single division in the UFC. But for the most part, just think of how many fight night cards are headlined by heavyweight fighters and just absolutely stink out the place. As much as I love Derek Lewis, he seems to be a victim of some of them. But if you just look at the rankings, Stipe Miocic, he's not fought in about 4 years. Curtis Blades is known for being quite boring. Volkov is known for being quite boring. Jailton Almeida, another one, he had a hype train going on, and his fight against Derek Lewis was very fucking boring. You have Marcin Tybura, boring, more like Marcin Ty boring, and then you have Sergey Spivak, boring. The list goes on. Other than the top three, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane, Pavlovich, and John Jones, the rest of it is just a bit stinky. Stipe's fun to watch, but again, he hasn't fought in 4 or 5 years, which is crazy to me. So for the least entertaining, it's got to be a heavyweight, in my opinion. Next up, we have the light heavyweight division, the weight class which is just below heavyweight. And honestly, you could switch one of these two. I wouldn't mind if you said that light heavyweight is the least entertaining, because it's kind of in a similar boat. Alex Pereira, very entertaining, very fun. Yuri Prohaska, very entertaining, very fun. Jamal Hill, very entertaining, very fun. And then the rest of the division just kind of drops off a cliff in terms of entertainment. Johnny Walker is very entertaining because of the threat of a finish, how wacky and, just goofy. Even if he's on the receiving end of a knockout, how goofy he seems to, react to it. I don't know. The way he falls against Jamal Hill when he gets knocked out is fucking, out of a cartoon. It's crazy. But this division, again, it's just, Pereira's very fun to watch. Hill's very fun to watch, Yuri Prohaska, but then you got Magomed Ankalaev, is known for being quite boring. Jan Blachowicz can have some bangers, but he can be quite boring as well. Rakic, I think is very fucking boring. Krylov is Walker, fun. Khalil Roundtree, quite fun. Volkan Ozdemir can be okay as well, but also quite boring. And you know what I mean? It's just it's kind of like heavyweight in my opinion. I feel like I'm going over a similar point. It's just a division where you're expecting a lot more knockouts. If they do happen, but it's just not that entertaining in my opinion. Next up, we have the middleweight division, and it might just seem that I'm just going down in the weight divisions, but honestly, I promise I'm not. Dricus du Plessis is always in some fun fights, to be fair to him. He's one of these fighters I feel like looks like shit, but he's so good at the exact same time, and that's what I kind of find entertaining about Dricus du Plessis. And obviously he had that banger against Sean Strickland. Strickland, although he had that banger against Dricus du Plessis, is usually very fucking boring. He plays it super safe. He has the Philly shell, pops a jab out of a 1-2 sometimes, and it's just very boring to watch in my opinion. Adesanya, as much as I was a massive fan, very boring. I'm not going to be biased. Very fucking boring. Unless you play into his style, which no one would want to do because you just lose or get sparked out or whatever. Whittaker, very entertaining. Jared Cannonier is a bit hit and miss. He put an absolute beat down on Marvin Vettori, and that was quite fun. But then he's had his stinkers against Adesanya and whatnot. Marvin Vettori, again, he's always in bangers because he's got a granite chin, so he's always taking an absolute pounding. Or, when he's winning, it's usually not that good of a fight. But his fight against Paulo Costa was such a banger. Brendan Allen was in a good fight against Chris Curtis, and he gets a few finishes, so fair play to him. Paulo Costa, another good fighter. Armavov, very fun to watch as well. Khamzat Chimaev, very fun. Anthony Hernandez. There is a fair few names in this division who are entertaining to watch, but I do think there's other divisions that are much more entertaining. than middleweight as a whole. Again, not bad. I don't think it's anywhere near as bad as like heavyweight and heavyweight. I think they're really quite bad when it comes to entertainment. But middleweight, I think it's quite decent, but still it's quite low in the rankings. We are then going to move on to the flyweight division. And I won't lie, this one pains me. I used to say to all my friends, all my casual mates, whatever, that flyweight is one of the most entertaining divisions to watch. That was a few years ago, and now in the present day, I feel like that's not the case any longer. Don't get me wrong, you still have plenty of bangers. I feel like they are the best. They have the best potential. The thing what kind of stops the flyweight division is there's not much depth at all. You know, there's not many fighters, and you know that doesn't take away from entertainment necessarily, but it creates less options. Like you got Pantoja, who's got 2 wins over Brandon Royval, 3 wins over Brandon Moreno. He has a win over Kai Kara France, over Mateus Nicolau, Manal Cap. You know, he's beat plenty of a division. Alex Perez, and it's just like I don't know. They're so fast. They can keep up a very good pace. And you can go at it for 5 rounds and not look tired. And that's when the fights really do click in, like Pantoja versus Moreno was an absolute banger, you know. Some absolutely great fights. It's just, I don't know what it is. I just feel like it is a depth. It's like, it's kind of boring in that aspect. But it's just like the same fighters over and over and over. There's no freshness to this division, you could say. The only real prospects you've got is Muhammad Makayev. And you have got, I forgot his name. I can't remember his name. I think he's that Japanese bloke. I might have got the country completely wrong. But he is very fun to watch and he's quite young as well. But, you know, when it comes to the flyweights, they just haven't been that great recently. When Figueiredo was knocking about, I feel like the division was at its peak when it comes to entertainment. Figueiredo was knocking people out. Brandon Moreno was going on a nice little run, as well as Brandon Royval putting on some bangers against the likes of Kai Kara France and Brandon Royval in the first fight. And that's when the flyweight division was really popping off, and that's when I was suggesting to all my mates to keep a close eye on the flyweight division. And now sadly we're in an era where the flyweight division just isn't banging as much. Again, as a whole, I still think it bangs a lot more than the middleweight division, but only just. Like if you swapped them, I wouldn't be mad at it at all. We then move on to the welterweight division, and I used to slate this division fair bit. I used to say it's not that entertaining at all. It probably would have been further down the list if I'm being honest with you. But recently, I feel like there's been a bit of a spark with the welterweight division. Obviously, Usman was running things for a while. He was about to start lapping the division. Leon Edwards got that spectacular KO. We all know the song and dance about it. And then he's defended his bout against Colby Covington, one of the most boring fighters in that division, despite having so much attention and people loving him. You know, he's a very boring fighter. I know he had these bangers against Kamaru Usman, but other than that, he's been in just pure boring fights that no one remembers. You've then got Shavkat Rakhmonov. I don't have to say anything. He is the definition of entertaining. Jack Della Maddalena, entertaining. Gilbert Burns is a bit hit and miss. He can be in boring fights, but for the most part, he is very entertaining to watch, in my opinion. Ian Gary put on a stinker against Jeff Neal, but again, for the most part, especially his UFC career, I would say that he's been very, very entertaining, and out of the cage he's been quite entertaining regardless of what your thoughts are about Ian Gary. You've obviously got Stephen Thompson, Jeff Neal, you got Buckley, you've got Michael Venom Page, who just made his UFC debut and looked incredible and was very, very entertaining against Kevin Holland, who's another entertaining fighter in the welterweight division, and there's many more entertaining fighters in that division. I'm pretty sure Michel Pereira is still fighting at 170. I could be wrong. I never know if he's fighting at 185 or 170, but that's another example of a fun fighter. And I just think the welterweight division has started to click a bit more now. There's a few more styles added to that division, what just makes it a bit more fun, entertaining to watch. You know, I'd love to see Ian Gary versus Stephen Thompson, you know, MVP versus Stephen Thompson, a rematch between Holland and Stephen Thompson. You know, there's plenty of fights in that division which would be very entertaining. Even Leon Edwards going up against someone like Shavkat, I think would be very entertaining. This weight category, I feel like has really started to find its feet a bit more recently. And I'm quite happy about that. When I said about the flyweight division with Pantoja lapping people and that he's beaten plenty of times, that's what the Kamaru Usman reign was like. You know, the division got a bit stale in my opinion, but now that it's got Leon Edwards as a champion and you got more prospects coming through the rankings and being able to prove that they can hang in there against the top of the division, I think the entertainment has improved drastically in that division. We then move on to the featherweight division, and straight off the bat, you got the champion Ilia Topuria, and I feel like all of his fights in the UFC so far have been very, very entertaining. You know, he's very skillful, he's well balanced, he can talk the talk, he has knockout power. You know, he can mix his talk really well. You know, he's like the definition of entertaining. Same goes for Volkanovski, very entertaining, and same goes for Max Holloway. You know, I don't think I can really think of any fight that Max Holloway's been a part of that's been boring. Actually, scratch that. The fight against Frankie Edgar, fucking hell, that stunk. But regardless of that, I don't think he's ever been in a boring fight, which is pretty good for the amount of fights that he's had. You then have Yair Rodriguez. Come on now, like that banger against Max Holloway was absolutely crazy. Very fun to watch, very dynamic. And I just think the featherweight division is very entertaining. At first, I was going to put this division quite low. Not exactly low, but like in between. But when I started to think about it, I was like, there's been some bangers. You got the, like, again, Max Holloway, Topuria, Yair Rodriguez, Volkanovski. You got Arnold Allen, who can put on some nice little scraps. Josh Emmett, who, you know, he has been in some boring fights, but the threat of his knockouts is like adds some entertainment alone. And then when he does, you know, get those knockouts like he did against Bryce Mitchell, Michael Johnson, you know, you are entertained because it's just like crazy power that he possesses. Calvin Kattar's been in a lot of bangers as well. Bryce Mitchell's just okay to watch. Edson Barboza, like, come on now. Fucking unreal fighter. And then you got Danny Ige, bit shit. Yusuf, bit Leo Murphy, okay, and Alex Caceres is very fun to watch as well. And I think a lot of the fights in the featherweight division are bangers. You know, you have Diego Lopez, who's not currently in the rankings, who, with a win over Sadiq Yusuf, should, in theory, be in the rankings. I'll be surprised if he weren't. But he's been in nothing but bangers as well. Had a fun fight against Movsar Evelev for his UFC debut. And then I think he's got like 2 knockout wins since that loss to Movsar Evelev. And just been in entertaining scraps. So, again, adds to it. I just think this featherweight division is very entertaining, but we don't talk about it enough because you have the likes of Brian Ortega, who's able to hog his spot. I know he got the win over Yair Rodriguez, but the fact he was able to hog his spot in the rankings for so long was fucking crazy. But yeah, I feel like featherweight is one of the entertaining divisions in the UFC. Next up, in second place, we're going to go with the bantamweight division. So that obviously means in first place is the lightweight division. But let's talk about the bantamweight division. Very, very entertaining. If you flip these, I don't think I'd mind much. But I feel like lightweight is number one. But the bantamweight division, you know, very fucking entertaining. Sugar Sean O'Malley, you know, absolute superstar, very entertaining, very fun to watch. His dominance against Chito Vera was crazy to watch. His banger against Peter Yan was absolutely insane. He was able to finish Aljamain Sterling, arguably the bantamweight GOAT. He's been in many good fights, very entertaining to watch, and knows how to entertain a crowd. Merab Dvalishvili, sorry if I butchered the last name, not very fun to watch, I won't lie. He puts on some stinkers, although his fight against Henry Cejudo was very entertaining in my opinion. Corey Sandhagen, another entertaining fighter. Peter Yan, come on now, that's my boy. Love him, my favourite UFC fighter. Always in bangers. Henry Cejudo can be quite entertaining as well, to be fair to him. Song Yudong, another one. Davison Figueiredo, Rob Font. Like, the whole rankings is just full of entertaining fighters. Maybe chuck Pedro Munoz out there because he started off quite promising, but he's had a fair few stinkers, to be honest with you. Chuck out Merab Dvalishvili. Aljamain Sterling's moved up in weight, so I'm not going to class him. But, you know, very fast pace. They can go hard for 3 rounds, 5 rounds. Very dynamic, different styles, you know. a big mix up of, you know, strikers, grapplers, and just make it a very entertaining division to watch. And a lot of these fights that you see in the bantamweight division, I feel like they're very 50-50. It's quite hard to judge a lot of these fights. You don't know how they're going to go. I was shitting it with Song Yadong and Peter Yan because Song Yadong's a fast starter and Peter Yan's a slow starter, and he'd been out the octagon for a while now. But then Peter Yan was able to win. Like, there's just so many entertaining fighters in this division. Again, if you put this first place, I wouldn't argue with you at all. It is a great division. I think personally, it is my favourite division because you have, like I said, Peter Yan's my favourite fighter. I love Corey Sandhagen, Sean O'Malley. You have just some great strikers in there. And I think this is definitely worthy of being second place when it comes to the most entertaining divisions in the UFC. And then obviously in first place is the lightweight division. Islam Makhachev. I feel like people would have said he wasn't entertaining. I've always thought he was entertaining, to be honest with you. He'd always try and find a finish in his fights and was able to do so. I feel like he's, well, obviously he is the number one pound for pound fighter right now in the UFC. Well deserved in my opinion. And he just, every fight he has, he seems to be more complete. You know, in that rematch against Volkanovski, yes, Volkanovski came on short notice, but that's not Islam Makhachev's fault. You know what I mean? He did his job and he made it look absolutely fucking easy against Volkanovski, like he should have. Especially in maybe the first fight, but I think it kind of caught him off guard. And Volk was great in that fight. You got Charles Oliveira. Fuck me, so entertaining. This guy who's a grappler just had this massive resurgence, and now has knocked out Poirier. Well, didn't knock him out, sorry. He dropped Justin Gaethje, dropped Michael Chandler. You know, was able to have his way against Dustin Poirier. Overcomes adversity. Well, like, he's so entertaining to watch. Justin Gaethje, Dustin Poirier, come on now, bangers. Arman Sarukian, couldn't get his name out then. Fucking hell. He's okay. Gamrot's fucking stinky. Let's be honest, lads. Let's not take the piss here. I'm not going to try to fool you here. Gamrot's fucking boring. Oh my days. Michael Chandler's fun as fuck. Beneil Dariush, if you think it throws a big right arm, can be fun to watch. You know, his fight against was it Drakkar Klose? Fun as fuck, to be fair to you. That's a good watch. Rafael Fiziev, my boy, very fun to watch. Dan Hooker, Jalen Turner, Benoit St. Denis, RDA, Money Moicano, Bobby Green, like Drew Dober. You could even say Paddy Pimblett. Maybe not in the cage, but as a personality, you know, fair enough. You got Conor McGregor, who's always lurking about. Obviously, he's not currently fighting, but his natural weight class is the lightweight division. I think it has to be lightweight at number one. I just don't see any arguments against it, really. It's just such a good division. And the fact that Dustin Poirier and Justin Gaethje have been able to stay in the top five for so long, you know, and put on entertaining scraps, just says a lot about them. Just a great division. Dan Hooker as well, you know, with that fight against Jalen Turner, absolutely fucking crazy. You know, I feel like the lightweight division, it's just like the perfect division. They can go for 5 rounds. They can go hard. They possess a lot of power. You know, I just think this division really is great. Again, you got a big style, a lot of styles in this weight category, and I just think it's quite easily number one in the UFC when it comes to the most entertaining division. Now that you know which divisions I find the most entertaining in the UFC, let me know in the comments whether you agree or disagree, and if you enjoyed the video, maybe consider liking the video to help me out, and if you enjoyed it that much, maybe consider subscribing to this channel. Hopefully I'll be dropping some more videos soon, and I'll see you all later.